And she looks at us like huge-eyed and she goes, "They're watching us." Hey, my name's Dana and I spent 2 weeks living in a haunted house. This happened in, I want to say, early 2013. One of my closest friends at the time, she was living in this house. It was owned by her grandma, but her grandma had gotten pretty sick and needed a caretaker, so their family moved the grandma out of the house and in with family to take care of her, and then my friend moved into the grandma's house in order to fix it up. She had been living in that house, I want to say, at least a year by this point, by the point that I moved in. And I met this friend right when she moved into the house. She had grown up with a good friend of mine. They were both from that area. And when she moved to town, my friend said, "Hey, I really want you to meet my friend I grew up with. Let's go say hi." So we drove over to this house on Montrose Place. The house, it was not like condemned, but it was definitely in a state of disrepair. Like it looked like no one had been taking care of it. At this point, like her grandma had already moved out and they actually had renters for a little bit. And apparently it did not work out well with the renters. It was a family and I guess the husband was really angry and they had large dogs and the house just got totally torn up. I didn't know it at the time, but my new friend on Montrose Place had just gotten out of jail. That's a story for another day. Or never, I don't know. Anyway, she was trying to figure out what bedroom to move into because when you first walk into the house, immediately to your right is a big master bedroom. Wood floors, really nice, and connected to it is a bathroom with like old tile. The tile to me looked like it was from the 50s, so I always assumed the house was built in the 50s, but I checked Zillow and the house was actually built in 1932, which is so cool. But if you keep going straight through the house, you go down a set of stairs and on the right is another room. Not that great. If you keep going straight to the back of the house, you get to this gorgeous bedroom with 3 walls of windows. And in the corner, there's this old style fireplace. You know, the ones that they're like attached at the ceiling and they come down and kind of squish out. I can't think of words right now. Anyway, I'll look for a photo of it. It was so cute, orange, just like adorable. I was like, wow, this room is amazing. And you could tell that this room and that middle room were add-ons. They were additions to the house. So the house originally seemed like it was a 1-bedroom. She decides she loves that room too, loves all the windows, loves the fireplace, everything. She moves her bed in there. And her and I, we're very different people. She would actually laugh about how she would say everything about her was fake. Her hair was fake, her nails were fake, her boobs were fake, which is true. Her tan was fake, and she would joke that I was the opposite. And that very much described us in every way possible. So we didn't totally click at first because we were so different, but I think a few months went by and she called me up to hang out and I went over and hung out with her. And I noticed that she had switched bedrooms. She had moved her bed up to that first bedroom, that master bedroom with the connected bathroom. And I mentioned it. I was like, "Oh, you switched bedrooms." And she's like, "Yeah, I just like it better up here. I like having the bathroom and stuff." And I thought, yeah, that makes sense. Her and I actually ended up getting really close. She became one of my closest friends, even though we were super different. We were hanging out all the time. She loved cooking and she always had a lot of money and she would just go on these big shopping sprees and buy all this food and then call me up and be like, "Come over and eat dinner with me." It was really nice. So I ended up hanging out over at that house on Montrose Place pretty frequently. I promise I'm getting to the ghost stuff. I just kind of want to give you guys an idea of the house and the situation and everything. And yeah, I'm laying in bed. I'm tired. I watched a video earlier today about a woman living in a haunted house. It made me think of this. I hadn't thought about the Montrose Place Ripper in a long time. Anyway, so a year goes by, hanging out all the time over there. And I had ended up in a situation where I was living in a yurt in this married couple's backyard. And it wasn't the best of situations. I didn't have any running water. I didn't have my own bathroom or kitchen. So I'd have to go down to the main house for those things. And after a while, I was kind of tired of it. I found a room at a different house, but I couldn't move in to it right away. So I gave a month's notice to the yurt people. And 2 weeks after I did that, 2 weeks out from having somewhere to move to, I got a knock on my yurt door one morning. It was a Tuesday. It was like 7 a.m. And I know that because I was getting ready for work. I had bronchitis, but I didn't have any like sick days off. So if I missed work that day, I missed money. And I didn't want to miss any money because I didn't have much money. But I ended up having to miss that day because the husband of the couple I was renting from decided that since they never saw me and they never heard me and they never knew if I'd been in the house or not because I was quiet and respectful and cleaned up after myself, they didn't like that. And they wanted me out that day. And I thought that was so strange. Like, I was like, I'm getting kicked out of somewhere for being a good roommate. So weird. I didn't know what to do because I had like almost no money. I had nowhere to go. I just assumed like, okay, I'm going to be sleeping in my car for the next 2 weeks, but I couldn't even fit all my stuff in my car. Even if I could, then I still wouldn't have room to sleep in there. So I called up my friend on Montrose Place and was telling her about it. And she's like, don't worry, I'll drive over. She had an SUV and she's like, we'll get all your stuff and we'll put it in my garage and you can sleep in a spare room in my house. I was like, oh my God, thank you. So we get my stuff put into her garage and I go into the house and she told me even right away, like, oh, that middle bedroom's kind of weird. She's like, you don't want to sleep in there. I was like, okay. She's like, just take the one at the end of the hall, which is the beautiful one, the beautiful room that I thought was totally gorgeous with the fireplace and all the windows and everything. So I'm all excited, like, that room's so cute. I'm ready to like live in there for 2 weeks. I bring my clothes in, I bring my computer, and it's ice cold in the room. It's totally freezing. It was wintertime, but what was making it more cold than it needed to be was the fact that a lot of the windows were broken out. It's really interesting too, because when she first moved into that room, there weren't windows broken out in it. So I don't know what happened that broke the windows out. And she never said anything about it. And there were never any kind of crazy storms or anything. And that's so weird. And I wish I could ask her now, but she passed away like about 5 years ago. I took some cardboard from some of my moving boxes and took some tape and I put cardboard over the broken out windows, taped it on there, and the room was still cold, but it wasn't as bad and it was totally livable. I was just happy to not be outside, I don't know, in a tent. Like I don't know where I would have gone if she hadn't helped me. I settled in that night and then got up the next day and went to work. Everything was totally normal. Got back from work that evening and we had dinner together, and then she had to go out that night. Her job was not a conventional job. Kind of debated about how much to give away about what she was doing for work, but I don't know. It was definitely not legal in the state that we were living in, but it is legal in at least one state that I can think of. And yeah, she was paid in cash. Maybe that's as good as I'll explain it. So she had to go out and do that. And I was home with her dog and I went to the bedroom that I was staying in and was just sitting on the floor on my computer. There wasn't a desk in there and it was a desktop computer. So I was just sitting on the floor, clicking around the internet, doing my thing. And that's when I started to hear something really weird. I started to hear the sound of like wood breaking. It was almost like someone had a crowbar and was like prying up floorboards. And the sound sounded like it was coming from the living room. I thought, man, that is really strange. Like, are her neighbors doing, demo work, like construction at like 10 p.m.? Like, that's very weird. And I could just hear it, the ripping of the floorboards. And I was like, okay, whatever. I guess people are ripping out their floors at 10 p.m. Even though it sounded like it was coming from the house. It sounded like it was coming from down the hall in the living room. And I just continued to mind my own business. But the sound got louder and like faster. Like more boards were being ripped like faster and faster and faster. And the sound got so loud, it was actually hurting my ears. It felt like physically painful. It was so loud and like constant. It got to the point where it was like constant. And I was like, okay, this is crazy. I have to see what is going on. I popped up, went out the bedroom, up the stairs, down the hallway, and I stopped in the hallway next to her bedroom door, which is at the front of the house, right by the front door. It was dead silent. I look in the living room, I look over to the living room, nothing out of place, no noise, nothing. I look into her bedroom, her dog asleep on her bed, like nothing was going on. You could hear a pin drop, totally silent. I open the front door, I look out the front door. There's not even a car driving by, there aren't people out there. It's not a busy street, it's kind of up and away from things. And there's definitely neighbors, but nothing was going on. Totally quiet night. It was super weird. I went back to my bedroom and just got ready for bed. And I was just thinking about how strange that was. And I couldn't really quite understand what it could be. I also couldn't really understand how if one of her neighbors was ripping out their floors, how it would be so audible. And anyway, I ended up going to sleep. And I didn't see my friend that night. When I got up for work the next morning, she was still asleep. And I definitely didn't bring it up to her the first few days. I know because the next thing that happened, it happened early in the morning, right before I got out of bed. So at this point, I've been in the house this is probably like my fourth morning in the house. And I was laying in bed. I woke up and it was sunlight. I hadn't opened my eyes yet though, but I could just tell that it was bright. And I'm laying there and I hear the sound of boots walking on a wood floor. And it sounds like it's coming from the living room. I'm like, oh, wow. Like, who's up? Like, does she have a guy over? Like, who's up this early, dressed with their shoes on, walking around? And I hear them stomp, stomp. And then I hear this boof, like a sliding noise, like someone's pushing a whole couch, like a couple feet, across the wood floor. And then stomp, 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 and then push, stomp, stomp, push. And it kept doing that. And I was like, wow, like, are they seriously like rearranging her living room furniture at like 7 a.m? And it just kept going. The stomp, stomp, whoosh, stomp, stomp. And it got louder and like quicker. Just the way the floorboard ripping noises did, how they would like speed up and get higher in volume the more you didn't react. Like when I heard that the night, a couple nights before or whatever, I didn't react, so it just kept getting more and more intense. And this stomp, stomp, like sliding sound was the same way. So I just got up out of bed and I thought, well, I guess I'll see what they're up to, And I get up there and again, dead silence. No one's up, no one's around, no one's in the living room. None of the furniture is actually moved, but you would think it would have. I mean, it sounded like they were completely rearranging the furniture into like a maze, but no, nothing had happened. That evening we were having dinner and I was like, dude, like there's something in your house. And she goes, shh. And she wouldn't let me finish the sentence. I'm like, no, but like something's like wrong. And she's like, shh, shh, shh. And I was like, okay, okay. So I stopped, talking about it. And her eyes were like huge, just like she did not want anyone to say anything about it. She was not interested in talking about it, nothing. And it kind of made me think, like, I wonder if this is why she drinks so much, because she was drinking a lot and like taking a lot of pills. And part of me was like, oh, that's just how she is. A lot of people use substances or whatever. After living there, I was kind of like, oh, maybe she does this so she can sleep at night or sort of like tune out the weirdness. I told a mutual friend what was going on and he totally shit all over it. Just like, oh, sound travels weird. Like I don't understand that sound travels. Oh, I'm sure it's just the neighbors. And, I was thinking about it earlier and I was thinking how, I didn't just hear the floorboards ripping. I called that the ripper, boots stomping and the furniture moving. I called that the mover. I didn't just hear those things like one time. The 2 weeks that I was there, those events happened over and over. It wasn't every single day. And I never heard the mover and the ripper the same day. It would just be one or the other. And it didn't matter if it was nighttime or daytime. It was always when I was alone in the house or my friend was asleep and I was the only one awake. Those are the only times that it would happen. And it would never happen if you were in the living room. And I was thinking about this too, that like, oh, like I remember my friends sleeping in the living room a lot of times. So I wonder if that was to just kind of like keep the noises from happening. But anyway, the flaw in his logic about, oh, it's probably just the neighbors, is that how would the neighbors see when I would get up from my bedroom and start to like, go out the door to head up the hallway and then just stop doing what they're doing every time and then not continue again for a day or two? Like, are the neighbors really doing that? Are the neighbors really watching somehow magically in the house and then seeing when I get up to go look and see what it is inside the house and stop what they're doing? That just, nothing about that makes sense to me. Anyway, when I would hear like the mover and the ripper for the following, time that I was there, I would just like head towards the living room because then the sound would stop. Then I could at least have some peace, because it would just get louder and louder to the point where you'd start to kind of feel like you're losing your mind. What's weird is after I moved out, this guy that I knew, he needed somewhere to live for a couple weeks, and he had what I'm guessing was his girlfriend. It was really weird because he was like in his 60s and this girl was like in her early 20s. It was a very odd situation, but they needed a room, and so my friend rented out the room that I stayed in to them. She called me like 2 days after they had been in the room, and she's like, you got to come over here. You have to see what's going on. So I get over there and we're standing in the kitchen, and from the kitchen, through the kitchen windows, you could see into that back bedroom through their windows with the way the house is shaped. And the windows are plastered with newspaper. I was like, they put newspaper on the windows? She's like, yeah, they put newspaper all over the windows. They're not answering their phone. I was like, this is really weird. And then while I was there that night, we heard them leaving the room. So we go rushing from the kitchen to the living room, and they come up the stairs from the back bedroom. And the 20-year-old girl or whatever, she looks over at us. We're like, hey, how's it going? And she looks at us like huge-eyed, and she goes, they're watching us. And my friend and I were like, what the fuck? So the 20-year-old and the 60-year-old dude, they had somewhere to go and they left. And my friend was just stunned, and I knew like she didn't want to talk about it in the house. So I kind of just didn't say anything. After she got them to move out, she started renting out the middle room to people. And the first guy that she rented it out to, he paid for the month. He stayed for 2 weeks. And then one morning he just left and never came back. And he didn't ask for any money back or anything. He just disappeared. Then another guy moved in, and he stayed for quite a bit longer. He was kind of like a tougher dude though. And during this time, my friend would make like brownies or cake or whatever, and she would just leave it out on her counter. And one morning she woke up to her brownies, like the center of them had been eaten out. And she was super pissed. She thought it was her renter that did it. And she called me all angry, like, this guy's eating my brownies and he's not even cutting a piece. He's just eating straight from the center. So she confronts him once he gets up, and he was like a New York dude. So he's just like, I'm not eating your fucking brownies, and left. And so it turns out that the house was full of rats, huge rats, and they were living all in the walls. And I had never thought that that was anything paranormal, and it may not be as well, but I thought of it because I watched this video earlier about the girl living in a haunted house, and she said in one room there would always be like tons of dead flies, like 80 of them every day, no matter how much she cleaned them up. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because my friend hired the rat guy, she called him the rat guy, to come and, take care of the rat problem. And he was over there most days of the week for months, to the point where we actually became friends with him. He's super nice. I think I'm still friends with him on Facebook. Like, he was saying he had never seen a rat problem like that ever in his life, that it was constant. And we would see him, he would like disappear into this like cellar that's underneath the room that I had stayed in and emerge with all of these huge rats. So yeah, it was not her roommate that ate her brownies. That was a rat that ate the center out of her brownies in the middle of the night. I know that wasn't the most riveting ghost story, but it was really weird to live through. And I've thought about it quite a few times since then, like wondering what happened, like how long has that, is it a ghost, whatever, entity thing been in the house? Like, why does it make noises like it's ripping up the floorboards? Why does it make noises like boots walking and moving furniture? Isn't that weird? It's like a weird way to haunt something. Is it two different things? Is it a ripper and a mover, or is is it one thing that sometimes rips and sometimes moves? And the other thing I wondered is that renter that they had before my friend moved in. Apparently he was a really terrible, horrible guy. I don't know the way she would describe him. Did he bring something into the house that created that, or was it there before him? Like, did her grandma live there for years with that going on? I wish I knew. Anyway, I've had other weird stuff happen to me. I actually probably could make another video with probably the rest of the weird things that have happened to me, or 2 videos. I don't know if that's interesting to you guys though. So if it is, like, let me know in the comments below, because I can think of like 4 things off the top of my head that have been strange that have happened. That's the story of the Montrose Place Ripper. Have you experienced something similar? Let me know in the comments below. I'm super interested, and thanks for listening.